The CEO's Secret, a family divided by success. When people in America hear the name Elena Tran, they see the cover of business magazines. The woman who built Tran Global Industries from a tiny import shop in Ho Chi Minh City into a $2 billion empire spanning 3 continents. They see the sharp, tailored suits, the calm, unshakable smile, the boardroom speeches that make investors lean forward and listen. They don't see the girl who grew up in a one-room house with a tin roof, who helped her mother sell vegetables at dawn before school, who promised her father on his deathbed that she would lift every member of this family out of poverty and give them everything they ever dreamed of. For 20 years, Elena kept that promise. She worked 18-hour days. She took every risk. She out-negotiated rivals twice her age, and she brought her brothers, her sister, her mother, every cousin and nephew into the business, gave them titles, salaries, houses, cars, everything money could buy. She thought success would bind them closer together, that security would turn their love into something peaceful and steady. But what she didn't know was that she was building a family that loved what she could give them far more than they loved her. It started small, the kind of things you brush off at first. Her younger brother Ming, who she put in charge of the US warehouse in Los Angeles, started skipping meetings, signing off on overpriced contracts to friends, and when Elena called him out, he didn't apologize. He just laughed and said, "Come on, Elena, you owe me this. You were always the smart one, the lucky one. I had to stay back and help Mom while you went off to college. Don't act like a boss with your own brother." Her sister Lynn, who ran the fashion line they launched together, began putting her own name on Elena's designs, taking credit for deals Elena had closed years before. And whenever Elena brought it up, Lynn would burst into tears and say, "You never think I'm good enough. You always have to be the star. Everything has to be about you." Even her own mother, the woman she had worshipped and sacrificed everything for, would pull her aside at family dinners and say, "Why do you work so hard? You have more money than all of us put together. Why can't you just let the kids do things their way? You're too strict. You've changed. You've become cold, just like all those rich people." Elena would lie awake at night in her penthouse apartment in downtown LA, looking out over the lights of the city that hailed her as a self-made legend, and wonder when exactly her family had started seeing her not as their sister, their daughter, their Elena, but as an ATM, a resource, a problem to be managed. She had built this company for them, every brick laid with their future in mind, and now they were using it against her, twisting every act of love into proof that she thought she was better than them. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday in October. Elena discovered that Min and Lin had been secretly siphoning funds from the company's US accounts for more than a year, nearly $3 million, to pay off gambling debts and buy luxury homes and cars they never bothered to tell anyone about. When she called them into her office to confront them, they didn't look ashamed. They looked angry, like she had caught them doing something she had no right to see. "We're family!" Ming shouted, standing over her desk like he was the one in charge. "Family shares! You don't get to keep it all for yourself while we scrape by." "You're just scared we'll become as successful as you," Ling added, her voice sharp with jealousy. "You want to keep us small so you always feel like the hero." That was when Elena realized the terrible truth. She had confused providing for them with loving them. She had given them everything except the one thing that actually matters: respect. She had protected them from every struggle, every mistake, every consequence. And in doing so, she had turned them into people who believed they were entitled to her success without ever having to earn it. She sat there in the silence of her office, the rain beating hard against the glass, and thought about all the American business leaders she had met over the years, how they talked about separating family and work, how they said that mixing the two was the fastest way to lose both. She had always thought that was cold. That was the American way, distant and disconnected from the deep family bonds she had grown up with in Vietnam. But now she understood. Those bonds only hold when everyone carries their own weight, when everyone gives as much as they take, when love isn't measured in dollars or favors, but in loyalty and honesty. The hardest thing Elena ever did was fire them. She cut them off from the company. She froze their access to funds. She told them they would have to build their own lives, their own success, just like she did. Her mother called her crying for 3 days straight, calling her selfish and heartless, saying she had abandoned her own blood. Her cousins stopped speaking to her, old friends turned their backs, and for a long time, Elena felt completely alone, like she had lost the very thing she had spent her whole life fighting for. But she also felt something else: lightness. For the first time in 20 years, she wasn't walking on eggshells, wasn't constantly worrying about what someone would take or ask or complain about next. She kept working, she grew the company bigger than ever, but she also started slowing down. She visited her old neighborhood in Vietnam, brought books and supplies to the school she used to attend, sat and talked with the people who knew her before she was a CEO, before she was rich, before she was anyone important. Slowly, things began to change. Ming got a regular job at a logistics company, started paying back what he owed, and every few months he would send her a short, quiet text saying, "I'm doing okay. I'm sorry." Lynn opened a small boutique of her own, selling clothes she designed herself. And one day, she sent Elena a photo of her first storefront with a note that said, "I never knew how hard it was until I had to do it alone." They weren't close, not yet, and things would never be the way Elena had once dreamed they would be. But they were learning to respect her, and more importantly, they were learning to respect themselves. People still ask Elena what the biggest lesson she ever learned is, and she doesn't talk about profits or markets or strategy. She looks them straight in the eye and says, "Success is not about how much you can give the people you love. It's about helping them become strong enough to stand on their own. You can build a house for your family, but you cannot build their home. That is something every person has to build for themselves." She knows now that family isn't always blood, and love doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Real love means telling people the truth, even when it hurts, even when it makes them angry, even when it costs you everything. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give the people you love is the space to become who they were meant to be, without you carrying them the whole way. YouTube title: The Billionaire CEO Gave Her Family Everything Until She Found Out Their Secret. Description: Elena Tran built a multi-billion-dollar empire to give her family the perfect life, but success destroyed everything she loved most. This is the true story of how one woman learned that money can buy comfort, but it can never buy respect, loyalty, or real family. A powerful story of ambition, betrayal, and the hard truth about what happens when you give your loved ones too much, too fast. Tags family drama, hashtag true story, hashtag CEO, hashtag success and failure, hashtag bepant, hashtag life lessons, hashtag inspiring stories, hashtag business drama, hashtag family values, hashtag real life drama.